The stock exchange didn't suddenly take over government one random day. It was a slow, deliberate conquest that took centuries, and the final takeover happened in plain sight between the 1970s and the early 2000s. Here's how it actually went down. The old world, pre-1971, governments still had some sovereignty because money was tied to something real. The Bretton Woods system, 1944, kept the dollar pegged to gold and other currencies pegged to the dollar. Governments could still make policy without the bond market immediately punishing them. Then in 1971, Nixon closed the gold window. The dollar became pure fiat, backed by nothing but trust and military power. That single move opened the floodgates. Suddenly, governments could print endless money, and the financial markets became the ones holding the leash. The real shift was in the 1980s, 1990s. This is when the bond vigilantes in the City of London truly took the throne. 1980s Thatcher, Reagan era, deregulation of finance, Big Bang in London, 1986, explosion of derivatives and speculative capital. 1992 Black Wednesday. The UK was forced out of the European exchange rate mechanism because George Soros and the markets bet against the pound. One man plus hedge funds broke a government's currency policy in a single day. 1990s globalization, trade deals, WTO, offshoring, the rise of the too-big-to-fail banks. Governments started competing with each other to offer the best terms to international capital. By the late 90s, the financial markets were no longer servants of the state. They were the masters. Politicians became middle management. Their job was to keep the bond yields low, keep the markets happy, and never spook the investors. Truss and Quirting announced a mini-budget with unfunded tax cuts. The markets didn't like it. Gilt yields spiked, the pound collapsed, pension funds started blowing up because of leveraged derivatives. Within days, the Bank of England had to step in with emergency bond buying. The markets effectively vetoed the elected government's policy. Truss lasted 45 days. She was forced out not by voters, not by Parliament, but by the bond market and the City of London. That was the moment the mask slipped for a lot of people. An elected Prime Minister was removed because the financial system didn't approve of her numbers. This is now standard operating procedure worldwide. Markets can topple governments faster than elections ever could. It's not the stock exchange in isolation. It's the entire debt-based monetary system run by a handful of ancient banking houses and the black nobility networks we've talked about before. The Rothschilds, the City of London, which is literally a separate sovereign entity inside the UK, the Federal Reserve, the IMF, the BIS, these are the real governors. They are now debt slaves. Every policy has to be run past the bond market first. If it threatens yields, inflation expectations, or the flow of cheap capital to the elite, it gets crushed. That's why you see the same pattern over and over. Parasite promises change, markets punish. Parasite either folds or is removed. The stock exchange became dominant when money became completely detached from reality, 1971, and when the old bloodline banking networks finished building the global debt web that every nation is now trapped inside. The game was always blood and contracts. Now it's blood, contracts, and compound interest. And the politicians, they're just the visible face that gets sacrificed when the markets need a scapegoat. The shield was always red. The game was always blood. And the ones who actually rule never needed to hold office. They only needed to own the debt.